My boss ordered me to go out with him. I never thought a single sentence could change my entire life. My schedule is full tonight, so you'll go out with me instead. Those were the exact words my boss said, cold, calm, and impossible to refuse. At first, I thought he was joking. I even smiled awkwardly, waiting for him to laugh it off. But he didn't. His expression remained serious, almost unreadable, like a man who never wasted words on things he didn't mean. Let me take you back a little. My name is Emma. I was just a regular girl trying to survive in a fast-paced corporate world. I had no rich background, no powerful connections, just determination, long nights, and a quiet dream to build something meaningful for myself. Every day felt like a battle to prove I belonged there. And then there was him, Mr. Alexander Reed, CEO of one of the biggest companies in the city. Powerful, intelligent, and distant. The kind of man people feared in meetings and admired in silence. His presence alone could quiet an entire room. He wasn't just my boss. He was a man no one dared to say no to. And that's exactly why, when he told me to go out with him, I couldn't refuse, even if a part of me wanted to. That evening, I stood in front of my mirror longer than usual, staring at my reflection like I didn't recognize the girl looking back. What are you even doing? I whispered to myself. This wasn't normal. Bosses don't ask employees out like this, and even if they do, it's not something you simply agree to without questions. But deep down, something about it didn't feel wrong, just confusing. There was no flirtation in his voice earlier, no hidden smile, no charm. It felt more like an order, and that's what made it unsettling. When I arrived at the restaurant, everything felt surreal. It was one of those luxurious places I had only ever seen in movies, soft golden lights, elegant decor, and a calm atmosphere that made every small sound feel important. And there he was, sitting alone at a table near the window, calm, composed, as if he had been waiting for this moment all along. As I walked toward him, my heart raced faster with every step. Sit, he said softly, without even looking up from his glass. No greeting, no smile, just that same composed, commanding tone. I sat down, trying to steady my nerves. The dinner started in silence. The kind of silence that feels louder than words. I didn't know what to say, and he didn't seem interested in starting a conversation either. Minutes passed, and I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Finally, I gathered enough courage to speak. Sir, may I ask something? He looked up slowly, his eyes meeting mine. For tonight, don't call me, sir. That caught me off guard. Okay, Alexander. Saying his name felt strange, almost forbidden, like crossing a line I didn't know existed. We started talking, slowly at first, with small, careful words. But then something shifted. The conversation began to flow naturally, as if we had known each other longer than we actually had. And for the first time, I saw a different side of him. He wasn't cold. He was guarded. There's a difference. His silence wasn't arrogance, it was protection. Behind his serious expression was someone who had built walls so high that no one had ever managed to climb them. Why did you ask me to come here? I finally asked, my voice softer now. He paused, as if choosing his words carefully. Then he said something I never expected. Because you're the only one who looks at me like I'm human. I froze. What do you mean? He leaned back slightly. Everyone else sees power, money, authority. You don't. I didn't know how to respond, because he was right. To me, he wasn't just a CEO. He was just a man, complicated, difficult, but still human. That night changed everything. After that dinner, things between us became different. At the office, he was still my boss, strict, focused, and professional. But sometimes, I'd catch him looking at me. Not in a way that made me uncomfortable, but in a way that felt thoughtful, almost curious, like he was trying to understand something deeper. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, he began to open up. Not all at once, not dramatically, but in small moments. A quiet comment here, a personal story there. I learned about his lonely childhood, the pressure of expectations placed on him from a young age, and the way he had learned to hide his emotions behind success. One evening, during a late work session, he said something that stayed with me. Do you ever feel like no matter how much you achieve, it's never enough? I looked at him, and for the first time, I didn't see a powerful CEO. I saw a man who was tired of always being strong. But life doesn't let things stay simple for long. Rumors started spreading around the office. Whispered conversations stopped when I walked into rooms. People judged without knowing anything. She's only getting attention because of him. She must be using him. Their words stung more than I expected. They didn't know the truth. They didn't see the real moments we shared, the honest conversations, the quiet understanding, the fragile trust he was slowly building. Eventually, I made a decision. I needed to protect myself. My career, my reputation, my peace. So I started keeping my distance. The next day, I avoided him completely. No eye contact, no extra words, just work. Strictly professional. Cold, even. But he noticed. Of course he did. He always noticed everything. That evening, he called me into his office. Why are you avoiding me? He asked directly. I'm not, I replied quickly. You are. His voice wasn't angry, it was something else. Something softer. Hurt, maybe. I think it's better if we keep things strictly professional, I said, forcing the words out. There was a long silence that felt heavier than anything we had ever shared before. Then he spoke quietly, is that what you want, or what the world expects you to want? I couldn't answer, because deep down, I didn't know. That night, I cried more than I had in a long time. Not because of him, but because of what I was feeling. I was scared, not of him, but of how much he had started to matter to me. Days passed, and we barely spoke. The distance between us felt real now, heavy and uncomfortable. Something important was slipping away, and neither of us knew how to stop it. Until one day, everything changed again. He stood in front of the entire office during a meeting and said, from today onwards, Emma will be leading the new project. The room went silent. Everyone looked at me, surprised, confused. Even I was shocked. After the meeting, I went straight to his office. Why did you do that? I asked. Because you deserve it, he replied calmly. People will talk, I said. They already do, he answered. I looked at him in that moment and realized something important, he wasn't afraid anymore. Why are you doing this? I asked softly. He stepped closer, not as my boss, not as a CEO, but as a man who had finally decided to be honest. Because I don't want to lose you over fear, he said. My heart stopped for a second. I know this isn't perfect, he continued. I know people will judge. I know it's complicated. But for once, I don't want to live my life based on what others think. My eyes filled with tears. Emma, he said gently, that night when I asked you to go out with me, it wasn't an order. It was the only way I knew how to ask without being rejected. I couldn't help but smile through my tears. You're really bad at asking people out, I said. Softly. He let out a small laugh. I know. And in that moment, all the fear, confusion, and doubt inside me slowly disappeared. Because sometimes love doesn't arrive in perfect ways. It comes unexpectedly, in quiet moments, in awkward words, in feelings that grow when you least expect them. I took a deep breath and said, next time, don't order me. He raised an eyebrow slightly. Then how should I ask? I smiled gently. Just say, will you go out with me? He looked at me for a long moment, as if this simple question meant more than anything he had ever said before. Then, softly, he asked, will you go out with me, Emma? And this time, it wasn't an order. It was a choice. A real one. Yes, I answered. And just like that, everything changed. What started as a command turned into a connection. What felt like pressure turned into something real. And what I thought was just another complicated situation became the most unexpected love story of my life. Sometimes, life doesn't give you perfect beginnings. Sometimes, it gives you confusing moments, difficult choices, and imperfect words. But hidden inside those moments are the most real feelings you'll ever experience. And sometimes, all it takes is one sentence to change everything. Moral of this story: the strongest people often hide the softest hearts, and love doesn't begin with perfect words, it begins with real ones.